Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Turks and Jerks. This is the Jerks segment. It's the better segment, let's be honest. It's the segment we really focus on. The Turks is always like, oh, yeah, all right, fine. Find me some guy who had 195 yards I didn't expect. You know, like anybody can go Matt Jones as a Turk of the Week. It's not interesting, right? But we came up with interesting ones. You had Aaron Rodgers, not for the play, really, but for the post-game press conference. Cenk, you had Bruce Arians.
I love coaches for Turk of the Week.
And I had 1977. You don't get that on SportsCenter. Continuity was my Turk of the Week. So let's start with the Jerks, Jason.
Well, as we always default to Dan Snyder.
The ultimate jerk. I mean, every year.
Then they came to me. We always default to Cenk, Jerk of the Week.
But every week, this is really the second place Jerk of the Week for everybody. Because as always, despite a win by Washington, Dan Snyder, our Jerk of the Week.
You said continuity.
Yes, that's right.
Continuity.
That's right. All right.
So Jerk of the Week, and Cenk, I know you're going to get to the more talked about Eagles offense, and I don't want to spoil anything for you on that one, but Byron Maxwell, Frank Schwab of Shutdown Corner for Yahoo Sports wrote up his winners and losers, and I do like going to there to see kind of what he thinks of the league on his Monday morning quarterbacking, I should say. So Byron Maxwell is signed to a $63 million contract extension by the Eagles in the offseason. And while all Chip Kelly's hand-picked squad, mostly Oregon Ducks, came into this team.
But not the Oregon Duck everybody thought he was going to try to get.
You should have gotten that guy.
That's a good point. But Byron Maxwell was kind of, I don't want to call him the anchor of the defense, but he did pay him his money to be a spotlight for that Eagles defense, especially in the defensive backfield, when we know that you can't just win games on pure offense, as we already know that they're struggling. But Byron Maxwell, and as I'm quoting, was torched, and this has never been said before, by Whedon to Terrence Williams for 42 yards. And you kind of look at that, and his quotes, and Byron Maxwell said afterwards that, you get tired late in the game, and it just sounds like a bunch of excuses.
So sad.
And I'm paraphrasing what he was saying. He's like, I just couldn't keep up with. I couldn't keep up with him. This isn't Jerry Rice in his prime. This isn't Randy Moss. This is Terrence Williams on a Brandon Whedon throw. And no discredit to Brandon Whedon to Terrence Williams. The Cowboys came out with the win. I'll give them that credit. But you are a $63 million cornerback. You can stick to Terrence Williams.
Let me tell you. Well, first of all, Terrence Williams might be a good receiver, and let me say this about why that's a terrible pick for Jerk of the Week. All right, because this is an honest show. The game was over. The game was over.
Right.
13-3.
But that's not a very specific. First of all, in a 13-3 game wasn't technically over because we were discussing beforehand how the Chiefs Broncos was technically over.
Yeah, but the Eagles weren't going to score a touchdown.
Right.
Like that was they weren't going to move the ball, and which Cenk will get to in a moment. With if you played on the Eagles defense at that moment with 4.5 minutes to play, you'd have been pretty frustrated and felt like not playing anymore too. Like you'd have been like,
that sounds like excuses. That sounds like straight excuses to lose a football game. That's what losers do.
He shouldn't have said, I feel tired. He should have just been like, yeah, I got beat. Because you're going to get beat.
So I'll a split decision on this one. It is human nature that sometimes you let up when you get frustrated, right? On the other hand, when you get paid $63 million, you should get a little past human nature, right? So Terrence Williams shouldn't light you up. If it's $6.3 million, he still shouldn't light you up, but we're going to look the other way.
Yeah, but
$63 million, don't get lit up by Terrence Williams.
I think it's the other thing. I think he didn't say what actually was true, which is the human nature, which would have been interesting if he'd gone, hey man, 55 minutes, and I watched that off. I was just mad. I was mad, and I wasn't really concentrating, and I thought we're lost.
Yeah, and he would never say that.
You can't say that, but that's probably what happened.
Huge trouble.
Right.
Okay, so now let me actually light up the Eagles. So Sam Bradford is not a professional quarterback. He will be out of the league in 2 years. I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not joking. He will not be in the NFL. So this season, next season, fine. Maybe next season. After that, he's gone. He's gone. He's not in the NFL.
2017, he's not there.
He's not there. Okay, he's not a professional quarterback. He sucked. He's always sucked. He's never passed for more than 150 yards in any game. Look it up. Okay, he's the Eddie George of quarterbacks. Eddie George never got more than 1.5 yards on any given run, right? And so, but people like Eddie George, Sam Bradford based on what? What he did in Pee Wee, right? I thought Chip Kelly knew something I didn't know because I respected him as a coach. I thought he must have watched tape and he must have seen something I didn't see watching Sam Bradford in the NFL. But it turns out, and hence goes to my bigger jerk of the week, Chip Kelly knew less than I did, and that's embarrassing. I mean, you just look at Bradford. He sucks. He sucked as a Ram. He sucked. So now you bet all your entire team, which is actually could be a great team. I actually think Chip Kelly, in other respects, is a great coach. You bet it on Bradford? Are you mental? So he turned Foles and Vic. You remember a couple of years ago when like Foles and Vic seemed like that was a really, wow, you got two great quarterbacks. What are you going to do with all those quarterbacks, right? He turned that into Bradford and Sanchez. They're going to fumble off each other's ass all season long. He destroyed the team. What are you doing, Chip Kelly? No, what have you done? And as you can tell, there's some chance that I might have been interested in the Eagles preseason based on Chip Kelly being a good coach. Boy, speaking of fumbling off your own ass, right? And I guess I shouldn't have done that because Bradford's terrible. He's never going to be good. Never. Get over it. It's done. I'd bench him right now. I might even release him if I was the Eagles, except that your backup is Sanchez. God damn, right?
You know, Bradford's stats through these two games are actually, and stats in the NFL are, misleading, easily cherry-picked. But that said, his numbers are staggeringly in line with his career numbers. His completion percentage this year is actually higher at 66.3. Other years right around, 53 and 59 his first 2 years, then two right at 60. But his yards per attempt, which is a telltale stat of a quarterback, 6.1, 6.7, 6.4 at 6.3 this year.
That's so funny you say that, Ben, because I was going to say, you know what Chip Kelly should say to Bradford? Here's your two jobs going forward, okay? One, hand the ball off to DeMarco Murray. Everybody hating on DeMarco Murray, you're wrong. DeMarco Murray's a great running back. He actually ran great in that game. I know it doesn't look like it. I know that his rushing yards was, what was it, 2 yards or something like that? But he's a great running back. Just they're not giving him the ball. You have no quarterback. Give the best running back in the league the football, right? Almost exclusively. And point two is, Bradford, you are not allowed to pass over 7 yards because you're incapable of it. You are capable of doing a 7-yard pass. So give me the 3-yarder to Murray. Give me, you got Sproles, you got Ryan Matthews, 2-yarders to them all day long.
Zach Ertz.
Yeah, just let them run. And I'll let you go up to 7 yards, but don't venture past that because you'll throw a pick and you'll get nervous. Okay?
You know, I was fooled on Bradford a little bit too because I thought, and said on this show, in 2013 when he started 7 games before the first year that he had lost to injury, and he lost a year and a half, he was hitting 61% of his passes, and he'd thrown 14 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He had been pretty good. The Rams were fairly ordinary, but I thought he had been pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 14 touchdowns sucks.
Well, it's 7 games.
Okay, all right. Look, he's never going to throw more than 30 touchdowns. Never, ever, okay? Because he's a mediocre quarterback. I'm not even worried about the interceptions. Don't misinterpret me. I'm worried about, I'm nervous. 15 yards over your head. Right into the ground, throw it away, like this in the fucking pocket. No, I can't stand the guy. Get him out. A
lot of Eagle receivers looking back for the ball that was thrown behind them.
He looks scared. Look, now I'm going to say something controversial. All that was not controversial. Oh, that's fact, okay? I think there's some chance he gets injured so he doesn't have to play football anymore. Like, he constantly keeps getting injured, and he'll, at some point in this season, he'll get so embarrassed he'll get injured again.
You think he tore his own knee ligament?
Yeah, well, okay. I told you it'd be controversial. No, look, people, they expose themselves sometimes. It's super subconscious. That's why I know it's a wacky theory. But hear me out. Watch. He'll get completely embarrassed the rest of the season until he gets injured.
So do you
hear me now, quote me later.
So do you think the Eagles are doomed because of Sam Bradford, or if he's not in the equation anymore, do you think the Eagles, with Chip Kelly's, what we know of his offense right now, again, 2 weeks in, are absolutely out of this equation? Because
they're not out of the equation.
That's because it sounds like a little bit that it's Bradford, it's all their fault, but they still have the weapons of DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews.
And they're a missed field goal against Atlanta, and then a dropped pass that was totally dropped, not Bradford's fault at all at the end of that game, from having beaten the Falcons in week 1, or being in a position at least to beat the
Falcons. Bring back Tim Tebow. Okay. So,
that's the most controversial thing you've said all day.
But no, honestly, here's what I mean by that. And it obviously doesn't have to be Tebow specifically. Don't get an adventurous quarterback or a nervous quarterback. Just somebody past 7 yards, okay? And if all they do is hand the ball off and pass under 10 yards, they still have an excellent chance of winning the NFC East because of the debacle of the rest of the NFC East. Through no fault of the Cowboys. I mean, they lose Roma, they lose Dez Bryant, they're screwed. Right now, Kirk Cousins might be the best quarterback in the NFC East.
KC3.
Okay. Look, Washington now stands an excellent chance of winning the NFC East.
0% chance.
Giants are a debacle. No, Rams are not a bad team, and they beat the Rams pretty handily.
Washington, yeah.
That's because Jeff Fisher
Washington.
That's 'cause
is another jerk of the week. But
it's a home. Anyway, anybody. It turns out anyone can win any game at home. Okay, so here's my jerk of the week is the quarterback position in the NFL. Obviously, there's some great players, played some great games. We know who I'm talking about. Eli is representative of this, but I'm not specifically naming Eli. But the clock management by the Giants at the end was absurd. And you can't put it on Coughlin. You can put it on Coughlin because it's leadership, right? So I get it. Some of it goes to him. Eli Manning has been playing this game since he was 5. He's been leading teams forever. There's a play clock. You know there's a play clock. But I saw it in any number of games. I mean, I hate to call out Blake Bortles because it just seems like piling on, and the Jaguars won, right? But again, coming out of timeouts, like you're watching the play clock. Look at it. Have a sense of what's going on. And for Manning on that last drive, almost, I believe the exact same situation happened with Bortles. You know what? The Jaguars got a timeout on the one. But not only because Gus Bradley recognized the timeout, because this is my impression of Blake Bortles with 3 seconds on the play clock. Like, oh, shit, snap the ball. This is a play. So, and Manning called, they went from 3rd and 7 to 3rd and 12. And then they, just to prove the point, completed a 7-yard pass on 3rd and 12. Right now, I get it. The situation might have been different. And guess what happened if they get the first down? You win. And you're 1-1. And you're the favorites to win the NFC East, and nobody's even talking about anything else.
For the second straight week, terrible clock management.
Yeah, atrocious clock management. I mean, you've got to have some sense. Like, I get it. We're up top. We're looking at it from a TV monitor. We're not seeing the game the coaches are seeing. We're not seeing the game the referees are seeing, which is why fans react when they think the Seahawks jump offside and the referees didn't see it. It's not because they're incompetent. Like, they're getting a different perspective, so they didn't see it. It seemed obvious to us from our angle. Everything's different for us. But the clock management is the clock management. There is, 40 seconds to run a play every single time. 40 seconds to run a play. If you throw it far, you got to hurry a little bit because you got to run to the play. And to be unaware of it, and to particularly be unaware of it after a stoppage in play, when you've come back and you've met with your sideline, it's just staggering to me, and it is all on Eli. And then the other problem that Eli had, of course, was the other way the Giants win that game is, hey, I got an idea. Don't sense that there might be people behind you when you're at the 7-yard line. Like, you saw that. Our angle up top, Eli started to step forward. I'm like, oh, he should take a sack, and they should kick a field goal. And then he's like, oh, no, and they give up the ball. It's a fumble. It's a turnover, and they don't get any points. Otherwise, that game goes to overtime, or again, it's completely different. And really interestingly, I don't know whether we talked about it, but last week, Chris Liss, who's been on this show from RotoWire, made a really sensational point about not only he didn't mind the 3rd down play of the Giants, and he didn't think they should take the sack either. He thought they should run twice, unquestionably, and if you don't get it, big deal. You don't get it.
Right. 99 yards, go down the other way of the field.
99 yards. And it also, what I didn't think about, was it changes the mentality of the Cowboys. They would have been thinking, field goal, tie the game. The entire time, field goal, tie the game. You force them to think touchdown, putting you at risk for losing. Because guess what? Sometimes teams score against you. You run it twice, there's whatever. Even after that, there's 90 seconds left, less than 90 seconds left. If they'd run it twice, they would have been in great shape, under a minute. And even if you don't get it, they simply would, almost certainly you would have won that game 23-20 or whatever the score was there. And maybe they tie it and you go to overtime, but they almost certainly wouldn't have scored a touchdown because they wouldn't have tried. And I think a great point by Chris. All right, so quarterbacks, the jerk of the week. So also check out our Turk of the Week. Thank you. We'll keep looking here. See, when I go like that. All right, there we are. Check out our Turk of the Week clip, also available, and subscribe to the channel. Click anywhere.